Some tragedies explode loudly into the world, demanding attention with violence and chaos. And then, some tragedies unfold in near silence, quiet, hidden, almost invisible, until they suddenly become impossible to ignore. The story of Véronique Courjault belongs to the second kind. For years, her life appeared ordinary. She was a French woman born in 1967, a wife, a mother, a professional navigating adulthood with the outward appearance of normalcy. She lived in different countries with her family, adapting to expatriate life, building routines and making plans. Nothing about her suggested catastrophe. Nothing hinted at the profound absence growing quietly within her story. And yet, behind closed doors and within her own body, 3 lives came into being and were never allowed to enter the world fully. 2 were found years later, sealed inside a freezer. 1 had disappeared into fire, and when the truth emerged, it shocked not only France, but anyone forced to confront the unsettling possibility that a woman could carry, give birth, and then erase the existence of her own children while continuing to live as though nothing had happened. The question that haunted the public was not only what did she do, it was how could she not feel it. The pregnancies happened in secret, not because Véronique Courjault meticulously planned secrecy, but because secrecy seemed to happen to her. 2 births occurred while the family was living in Seoul, South Korea in 2002 and 2003. Another had taken place earlier in France in 1999. In each case, there were no announcements, no preparations, no names chosen, no futures imagined. Later, Courjault would describe something that deeply unsettled both doctors and the public. She did not experience these pregnancies as real. She did not deny that her body had changed. She did not claim ignorance of physical sensations. But emotionally and psychologically, the pregnancies remained distant, unreal, like events happening to someone else. In her own words, the Barbies did not have a real existence for her. This was not cruelty in the conventional sense. It was something colder and more disturbing: absence, an absence of connection, an absence of recognition, an absence of the emotional bridge that usually forms between a mother and the life growing inside her. Psychiatrists later identified this as a severe form of pregnancy denial, a condition in which a woman is unable, either consciously or unconsciously, to acknowledge her pregnancy. In some cases, this denial persists until birth itself. The body moves forward, the mind refuses to follow. To the outside world, this seems impossible. How could someone not know? How could someone not feel? But the human psyche is capable not only of creativity and love, but of extraordinary avoidance when reality becomes unbearable. For Courjault, acknowledging these pregnancies would have required something she could not manage: a reorganization of her identity, her marriage, her life narrative. Instead, her mind chose disappearance over confrontation. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the case is that Véronique Courjault did not live alone. She had a husband. She had children already. She shared a home, a bed, a life. Her husband was later cleared of any involvement. Courts accepted his insistence that he had known nothing: no pregnancies, no births, no deaths. To many, this seemed implausible, even infuriating, but investigators found no evidence to contradict him. What does it say about a relationship when such monumental events can occur unnoticed? It suggests a silence that runs deeper than words, a marriage where bodies coexist but inner worlds remain inaccessible, where avoidance becomes mutual, even if unconscious, where not seeing becomes a form of survival. Courjault did not ask for help. She did not confide. She did not reach outward. The pregnancies unfolded inside a closed system, her own psyche sealed off from those closest to her. And once each child was gone, the silence deepened. The truth did not come out because Véronique Courjault broke down and confessed. It came out because the past refuses, eventually, to stay buried. In 2006, during the family's time in South Korea, the remains of 2 infants were discovered in a freezer at their home. DNA testing confirmed what words could not soften: the children were hers. Suddenly, what had existed only in her internal world was forced into the open. The freezer, an object associated with preservation, with keeping food safe for later, became a symbol of suspended reality. Time had been stopped there. Grief had been postponed. Consequences had been delayed but not erased. When confronted, Courjault admitted to a 3rd infant, born earlier in France and destroyed there. With that admission, the scale of the tragedy became clear. This was not a single moment of panic. It was a pattern, a repetition, a collapse that had happened more than once. When Véronique Courjault stood trial in France, the courtroom became a battleground between law and psychology, between accountability and explanation. She was not portrayed as a monster. She was not painted as a villain driven by hatred. Instead, she appeared emotionally flat, distant, almost unreachable. Her demeanor frustrated many observers. People wanted tears. They wanted anguish. They wanted visible remorse. What they got was detachment. Doctors testified about pregnancy denial, about dissociation, about the mind's ability to erase what it cannot process. They spoke of how some women experience pregnancy as an intrusion rather than a transformation, something foreign rather than intimate. But the law demanded clarity. Regardless of psychological factors, 3 infants had died. The court could acknowledge her mental state without absolving her responsibility. In the end, she was sentenced to 8 years in prison, a sentence that reflected both condemnation and mitigation. It acknowledged wrongdoing, but it also recognized that this was not a case of sadistic violence or deliberate cruelty in the traditional sense. The verdict did not resolve the discomfort. Instead, it crystallized it. France did not move on easily from the Courjault case. It forced an uncomfortable national conversation about motherhood, mental health, and the expectations placed on women's bodies. If pregnancy denial exists, if a woman can carry a child without psychologically experiencing it, then what does responsibility mean? At what point does illness intersect with crime? And how much suffering must be visible before society accepts it as real? Some argued that Courjault was treated too leniently. Others argued that she was punished for an illness she did not choose. Between these poles lies a painful truth. Understanding does not always lead to forgiveness, and explanation does not erase harm. The children at the center of the case were still gone. 3 infants entered the world briefly and quietly. They were never named in public discourse. They were never photographed for family albums. They never had the chance to become memories shaped by joy or difficulty. They exist now only in records, in court documents, in debates, and in the uneasy space between sympathy and condemnation. Their absence is the loudest thing in the story. Véronique Courjault served her sentence. Her husband was cleared and returned to a life forever altered by a truth he claimed he never knew. The surviving family members were left to reconstruct their identities around a rupture that could not be undone. And the rest of the world was left with a question that refuses to settle comfortably. How many tragedies remain invisible because we do not know how to look for them? The Courjault case reminds us that not all violence announces itself with rage. Some arrive quietly, wrapped in denial, sustained by silence, and hidden behind the appearance of normal life. It asks us to consider how fragile the boundary is between awareness and refusal, between responsibility and collapse. And it leaves us with a final, unsettling thought. That sometimes the most devastating losses are not caused by hatred, but by the terrifying absence of connection, even to one's own reality. For more exciting and entertaining stories, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe to my channel.